So I'm going to kick things off by saying happy birthday, Darcy Ward. Be a pretty good way to start the conversation. I'm pretty good with the timing stuff, Leigh Adams. I actually had no idea, I have to be honest. So happy birthday, Darcy Ward.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, bud.
Yeah. Still feeling young.
Mate, you're young, mate. Mine clicked over the other day, and I'm telling you, you're hiding under the carpet.
Yeah.
How old are you today, Darcy?
28. So not much happening, but like, what do we do? So we went out today just to get some fish and chips down the beach. No, I didn't get out of the car. It's just easy to stay in the car and just look at the water and eat some fish and chips with the wife. Watch everybody run around like bloody ants. It's crazy.
How old were you last week, Leigh?
20 more than that. 48, mate. 48, and they're clicking over. As I say, no, 49. Sorry, 49. Yeah, 49. So.
Well, that's the big 5-0.
I got the big 5-0, buddy, next year. So yeah, mate, you guys got sunshine up there, and it's pretty warm, isn't it?
Yeah, where are you, Wade?
Yeah, Mildura. I'm only about literally 7 k's from Leigh's house.
Oh right, yeah, right. Oh yeah, we're sunshine, but we've got that. You had a cold front, so we've had the back end of that. So like today, unless you're in the sun, she's a little brisk, especially for a Queenslander like me.
Yeah, big time. To be honest, it's been pretty good, Wado. It's been nice here, hasn't it? It's only the last 4 days that it went to crap. So
yeah.
Darcy, when the Beatles came to visit Elvis at Graceland at his big mansion years and years ago, he made the Beatles walk through the house, and they had to walk past every one of his gold records, right? So he made the people bring him in and down these corridors and everything, and had to walk past every one of his gold records. If you look over the top of LAR's shoulder right now, do you notice he's got the bike up there, and he's got the good trophies, and he's got all the good gear up there?
Yeah, that's the first thing I wanted to talk about. I haven't seen all that. Yeah. And it's on such a show too. Have a look at it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I got my helmets up behind there too, my golden helmets, and one of my Guinness.
You can't. Is that a room, or is that just a cut off? Is there doors up there?
Balcony. It used to be the old balcony, and then we extended this barbecue sort of area onto it. So it's just like Wado was the one that come in and said, "Man, that's the spot for a bike." So next few days, Deck was up there, but he lugging it up and put it up there. So that's me. That's me 207. So me first GM. So when I finished with Jawa, I went to GM, and that was my first one that I bought off Karga. It's called the Don, and it's a machine, mate. I won 5 GPs with that bad boy.
Yeah, right. That's 07, eh? Jeez, what did you get that year?
Got second, mate. Nicky.
Yeah, Nicky was dominant with that left hand, mate. Those starts.
The old trapping gloves.
Yeah.
Leigh, did you ever ride a Westlake or a Godden?
I was a Godden man. Yeah, I didn't. I never had a Westlake. I got a Godden. I bought an old one. It was Hans Nilsson's old one. And then the next year I got sponsorship and got a brand new bike, which back in those days, that was kind of unheard of, So I got a brand new, I think it was a Max, GR 500 Max from Kevin McDonald up in Bathurst. And man, I was the king on a bloody brand new bike. It was like brand new from front to back, So that was Godden. Then I was Godden when I went to England, first year. And then the next year I went GM. So, and then obviously the Jawa thing come in when, for some reason, when they were upright, Jawas weren't any good. And then when they went lay down, off they went, and that sort of put Java back on the map. So I don't know how many years. I was probably five years with Jar or something like that. And then 207 had to do it. I went and bought, I can't remember, 6 or 7 GMs, and then off I went. So
what was the reason of the change? GM just become better?
GM was just dominant then, to be honest. DW, I probably stayed on Java for a little bit too long, like a lot of guys jumped ship. Crumpy and Rick Artson was the first one, he was like Java man. And then he's come and said to me, I'm going GM. And I'm like, what are you doing, And then sure enough, he became world champion that year. So, I sort of stayed with Java. I was loyal to them, and they weren't developing, they weren't going forward. So it got to a stage where I was riding on my old stuff, and the new stuff wasn't any good, and I was blowing up the old stuff. So I bit the bullet, and it was the best thing I ever did, mate.
A good decision.
Yeah, big time.
There's two developments as a spectator that I remember, and I'm guessing it was in the 90s. There was the lay-down engine revolution, and there was the leading link front end. So all of a sudden, there was new front end technology. Correct me if I'm wrong, Leigh. That was like in the early to mid 90s, around there somewhere.
Yeah, Antig was the first to sort of bring that out, with Sam and Malenko and all that, and Carl, and they were sort of like a group and come up with that thing and come up with the leading links. And then I don't know who was the first. I think Jar was the first to do the laydowns. A lot of the German guys were running them in the long track, and then they, grafted them into the Speedway, and then off it went, and that's when the Jawa thing went mad. Were you Jawa? Were you Jawa at all? Or you were GM, weren't you?
Yeah. I didn't have no Jawas because it was not my era. When I started to come on board, everybody was on GM, so I never been.
Exactly.
I rode a Jawa in 2008 when I went over to ride for Boscombe Barracudas at Kings Lynn, and they give me one of their like skid. You know how they did those tracker days? That's what it's called. Well, they give me one of them bikes to ride, and it was a bit of a dunger, but
I can imagine it was a beast.
But GM really, and I guess everyone's been GM, eh? No one.
Yeah.
Must be a huge difference.
No, it's pretty dominant, for the last few years. Obviously, GM have brought out a new engine, but it's kind of not quite there. They're still using the old ones, Wado. They're it hasn't got better than the new one, or the old one, sorry. So everyone sort of shelved them and they're just running with all the old ones. So
is that like the baby ones and the?
Well, no, it's this NQX or something. It's pretty cool looking. It looks really. I spoke to Karga about it, and it's kind of like a KDM. It's got the slope cylinder head, which exposes all the cam chain and all that sort of stuff, the cam sprocket. And very similar, he said it's very similar rocker arms, all that sort of stuff to the KDM, So, but everyone seems to be running with the old ones.
Yeah.
I think always assumed, don't they?
They come out with those baby ones. Well, what was that? Probably 11. They come out with the babies, I think.
Yep.
With the shorter cylinders, and I used to like them. I used to think that they were a bit more aggressive, sort of coming into the dirt. They would tend to be a bit more aggressive and unpredictable, I guess. But once you figured it out, and I don't know, I feel like I was lucky because when I was bloody riding, and my whole short career, Johnsy was the man, and I was on Johnsy, so I got. I jumped in on that ship and away it went. So Johnsy done me a good favour, but that was a connection through Chris.
He had the golden steel shoe, mate. He lived in the bloody Beverly Hills, Wado, down there at Middle O's. He just come in and he just picked up all the scraps off Chris. All the bloody bits. Chris had already done all the dirty work, and DW just stepped in, and here I am.
Oh, it worked out good.
I went to Johnsy's. Rory Schlein took me there, and I remember thinking, wow. this is going to be epic. I'm going to be at this. I had this idea in my mind of this big like supercar factory, like where the floors were going to be polished and it was going to be, glass everywhere. And it was a cold, miserable day. Who would have thought? And I walked in, I was like, is this it? It was just like this labyrinth of shit everywhere and just like literally you had to move boxes out of the way to get in. And man, he was an absolute superpower, wasn't he?
He's the king. And I think from what I gather, in England, he's still the man, obviously the GPs has gone a little bit wayward. Everyone's sort of Kowalski and, he seems to be the man. So, DW, did I race you in Poland when you were at Torren and stuff?
Yeah, we raced when I was at Torren. I was a junior at Torren. I remember coming to Lesno with Torren, and it was just an eye-opener because obviously you were the king there.
Yeah.
And I remember racing. It was magical. It was good to watch.
What a grip.
It was gripped because I remember we went there and you'd always had was it right that you had a 61 sprocket on there when it was grippy or what?
58 was normally the run of the mill.
Yeah, right, because it's a big track, but I remember the whole team was just struggling, and then someone from the team went up to maybe a 59 and started going. So then we all sort of did that, and we all got going, but it was too late by then.
It was too late, yeah. I can remember my last year, 211, how grippy it was, mate. I think they actually changed the rules after that year, and the tracks had to get inspected, and a guy from PZM, the referee, and all that. They all had to come along and tick a box to say, yeah, it's safe to ride. So it was pretty mad. That last year, I can remember, it was just insane.
Oh, yeah. I rode it in 11. It was nuts.
Yeah,
it was hard work.
Like, two-wheel, you just two-wheel it, and just hang on. But, yeah, because it had banking, you could do it, Wado, you could just run in and just rely on the banking and just maddest place. It was awesome, really good. So
Leigh rode many times, Darcy, or several times at Claremont Speedway, which is where I grew up, which was 570 metres. Like, that was a big joint. And remember that, I think it was the Tappy Series, the Series 500 Car Care International Speedway Master Series, when the track was horrible in turn 2, that we just had an issue that developed a bit of a rut, and you guys all went out and we fixed it. But you said to me at the time, Leigh, all you want is consistency. Doesn't matter if it's grippy or it's slick as a biscuit, you just want it the same all the way around. Fair call?
Yeah, that's it. That was the thing about Lesno. It was just solid grip, so you could just gear up and just go for it. It was when it was inconsistent and holes, and I always felt as though if I was in control, it was all good. I could attack it, and then when it was ruts and stuff like that, pretty much, I sort of I was in the GPs when we had the man-made tracks first coming in. So, man alive, you've never seen anything like it. Like our first Cardiff, how they used to put the boards down, and then, I think the boards, and then they'd put the plastic down, and then they'd put dirt on top, Well, the ruts got that bad that it actually went down to the plastic. I can remember Ollie going out with a Stanley knife and cutting the plastic out, so the riders couldn't see it, and I was just sitting there going, what's this? What are we doing, So it all looked good. We're in front of 48,000 people, but as a rider, it was like mentally we were spent, so yeah.
Yeah, I looked back the other day, actually. There's been some videos popping up every now and again now, and it was rough. All the indoors were rough because they just couldn't get that binding, could they? And what do you reckon? Not enough time to lay the dirt? They were pushing it because they mastered it now.
To be honest, after going down to Melbourne and seeing what they're doing and kind of being involved with Melbourne, how they went about it. It's like a science, mate. You know, like they had to come up when Ollie sort of flew in and Paul flew in. They had to go around all the quarries, and the quarries had all these samples, and it was all density, and it was all like it had to reach these certain standards before they even brought the dirt in, you know. So back in my day, they just grabbed whatever they could, and probably the cheapest, and just put it down, you know, and just get on with it. So
Yeah, right.
yeah. But now, how good are they? The tracks are just killer, mate.
Like, you know, when they do Warsaw now, that's I'd love to ride that.
Yeah.
Just the way the dirt slowly moves out, you know, and then when it comes towards the end of the night, there's a chance of going back to the inside.
Yep.
But if you start for the outside and you send it, it's all the way out there. It's just that's what it's all about, isn't it? Perfect texture.
So, totally. And see, back in my day, also when the man-made ones were coming in, they didn't have banking like they had now. So if you can imagine, with no banking, everybody just ran the pole line. So everybody was just running the same line. Well, you got 70 horsepower, just chewing a hole and just keep chewing it, you know. So now, like, it's a different ball game, you know. The tracks have got banking, you know. You look at Melbourne, how cool is that? You know, like a massive track. Like it's like putting a Lesno in a bloody indoor stadium, you know. It was mega.
Yeah.
We're very lucky that Warsaw even got to go, remember, because Warsaw was a fiasco that first year, wasn't it? Wasn't it just diabolical, and they had that huge drama and they basically had to cancel it, and it was a disaster. But now, as you said, Darcy, now it's just like the rider's rider sort of track, the place you want to race at.
Yeah, I heard something about when Warsaw got called off, it was too cold or something, and the concrete, there was some kind of problem within the stadium. It was too cold, and they couldn't quite get the dirt to bind it. It was too cold.
Wouldn't dry out.
Yeah, the concrete in it, it's a full, you know, the old stadium's just concrete, so
Yeah,
exactly. It's cold, you know.
Darcy, tell me about your dad. He used to race, yeah? How long ago did he race?
Oh, I don't know too much about it, to be honest. He's pretty quiet about it. He's not really a bragger, but yeah, oh man, I don't know. I guess maybe as I was about 3, he sort of stopped. I don't know, but when the series is like England come to Australia and rode a couple of times, he was a reserve for Australia, so number 6 and 7.
Yeah.
And he used to ride. There was like a velodrome here in Brisbane, and it was black concrete.
Oh,
I'm trying to think. I'm not real good with this kind of stuff, but you said, yeah, I can't think of what it's called, but it was black concrete that they used to ride here in Brisbane.
wow.
I've seen videos of it. So yeah, he was. I guess that's where I got my trade from. Obviously, he done the hard yards as a dad and he learnt it all. And then passed it on down to me. But he's pretty quiet about it. There's a couple of photos around his house of him riding, one up on the back wheel, like picking up. It's not a bad photo actually. That's in pole position at his house. But he's pretty quiet about it, eh? Like we've never really spoke about it.
Is he still doing dirt track or something? Is he? Did I see him doing dirt track the other day or something?
Yeah, he bought a Trumpy American flat tracker from America.
Oh,
Like shipped it over. He's like full spec'd out. It's got new clutch on it. And him and his mates, they got a little team going called Staunch As Racing. There's 5 of them. They go out to North Brizzy, and there's one's on a Triumph, another one's on a Triumph. Who's his name's Ollie Logan. He's famous Harley engine builder. And one's on like a 2001 YZ250, 2-stroke. Another one's on an XT 750. I don't know, one of those old white bikes. and they're loving it, mate. I can go out there and watch them, and they love it. They don't
track
like
like the right hand loop and the right hand.
Whatever's on that day, because Brisbane change it up. So
yeah.
Yeah, they don't do the whole day. They normally miss the last round. They're stuff.
Go to the bar.
And to be honest, it's been good to go back up there and watch him ride and get involved and yeah, it's been good, eh? So hopefully when all this
making a comeback, he'd be like Ginge.
Yeah, did you see that one coming?
Man, alive! It was weird when we were here for the Aussie titles. Lemo was kind of saying something. He said, "Oh yeah, he's talking about going back," and I was like, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" Yeah. And then he said, "Oh, I can't say much. And then all of a sudden, whammo, you know. So yeah, I didn't see it coming at all, and you know, I hope the only thing. Look, he'll probably go over and score points and surprise the hell out of us. But the only thing is, the way I look at it, he left England and everyone knew him as 3-time world champion and pretty much unstoppable, you know. And I'd hate him to go in and just tarnish that, you know what I mean? And look, he'll probably go over and just smoke him, you know. But it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Well, his best trade's going to be, all he's going to be thinking is, right, make the start, because he ain't going to be going out there passing anybody, especially not he might make a couple, but if I was him, he would just be practicing starts, making starts, because he's got that knowledge to just like, you know, some of these kids, and compared to his level, he's going to be, if he gets going, he'll just be trapping. That's his goal.
Totally. Yeah, but as you say, I didn't see it coming at all. I was like, man, what's he doing? And then Jono's the same, mate. He's gone and he rings me up. He rings me every couple of weeks, and all of a sudden he goes, "Oh, I'm going to go out and have a practice." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's cool, you know." And then the next phone call, he says, "I'm racing. I'm in the West Australian titles," and I'm like, "What are you doing, Jono?" You know? So, and he's gone over and ran second.
I've seen that. He just got that itch.
Yep. So you won't believe it. He rang Dave Parker, and I've got the long tracker bike that I used to run in, you know, Port Pirie and all that.
Oh yeah.
And he's keen to do the Aussie long track titles. He got on to Dave and said, "Right, get the bike ready. I'm coming over." So. Mate, he'll be in England soon.
Oh, I didn't make him come back as well.
I told him go back to do the Miss Sheffield thing again, although this time you might have to be entered as Mrs. Sheffield. I follow Joseph Screen a fair bit on Instagram, Joey Screen, and some of the cool grass track stuff that he has, the old vintage stuff. And Darcy, those guys were doing ridiculous speed with like a string wire in front of all the parked cars. Like Simon Wigan, those guys were just badass at that stuff, weren't they?
Yeah, I follow Screeny too and see what he's been putting up, and like, I don't know what to say. I think it's mental. Like even the track, it's so deep. Like when it cuts up. That was not on my agenda. That was never happening. That's nuts. I think
that's when men were men, mate. I guarantee you. Like you would have done it. You would have gone along to just your club day grass tracks, and you just sit there looking, thinking, what are these guys doing? They got 1,000cc sidecars, Wado, running around those tracks with a couple of ropes that's going to hold them back. You know.
Gee.
Leigh, what was Phil Crump's impact on your career?
Look, he's pretty much paved the way, you know, because, you know, Mildura, he was like a hero, basically, and he was the first to pretty much go and do the English thing and all that. So Mildura was massive Speedway. Every Sunday night, you know, Speedway would be on and we'd go down, and I obviously come through the junior ranks and, you know, I used to be kicking cans out the back of the grandstand, you know, so that's how young I was when I first sort of went along, and then did the junior Speedway, and then obviously when you turn 16 you get a senior bike and off you go. So Yeah, look, he paved the way. He sort of set the bar, and everyone sort of wanted to do what he did, you know. So it was just a natural thing. As soon as you get on a senior bike, you wanted to go to England and make a living out of it, you know. So yeah, it was cool, and it was really cool because when I first sort of come in, he was the king of Australian Speedway, and to learn off that, and then I actually got to a stage where I could beat him, you know. So yeah, that was a different ball game then, you know. So he was a hard nut. He was son of Ginger's the son of the animal, basically.
Yes.
He had
Do you
that on
remember
the
the first time you beat Phil?
Yeah.
You remember the first time you beat him, Leigh? Like what in particular race?
Oh, I can't. I can remember I was probably a young cocky kid and beat him a couple of times. And there was one time he come underneath me and just sent me into the Merbean bend. I was up against the bloody air fence, couldn't breathe. And
It wasn't an air fence back then.
Mate, it was like a big old wood red gum fence. So yeah, no, it was cool. It was, you know, it was great to learn off him, and then to get to a stage to try and beat him, you know. So that's pretty privileged. And getting back to when you talk about Claremont and those ones, Wado, I feel pretty privileged that I got to ride all those famous old speedways: Sydney Showgrounds, Eckhart, Wavell, Melbourne Showgrounds, Claremont, all those deal. You know, I kind of get some DVDs out now and watch them, and I just think, man, how cool is that? You know, like Sydney Showgrounds, we did a Australia versus England test match. I endoed large down the back straight, but
Leigh's frozen. Can you see that okay, Darcy?
Yeah, he's froze. He's back.
There we go. Who were you trying to pass when you crashed?
It was Scully, Steve Schofield. I kind of I come up the inside of him, and it was kind of like a bit of a circle and not very wide. You know the deal. You would have been there and seen it. Even the Eckhart. You know, the bikes, the speed of the bikes now, you couldn't run at the Eckhart or anything like that. They're just, but yeah, I come up the inside, and I think I went for the outside move in the next corner.
Every time he gets excited, Darcy, it freezes.
Like you wouldn't believe.
He's back.
Every time you go to say that, you literally freeze, like you're reliving that moment, Leigh. It's either the internet connection or Scully's controlling it. There's an amazing photo, Darcy. You would have been inside that Mildura club rooms. There's a lot of amazing photos in there, but my favourite, Leigh, is the one of you and Phil just backing her in there, mate. It's a ripper photo.
That's pretty cool, yeah. You know, like, again, back in the day, Mildura was pretty gnarly track. You know, it was what I was talking about before: flat, grippy like you wouldn't believe, ruddy, sidecar ruts, all that sort of stuff. So it kind of didn't have much going for it, other than it was a great track to learn off, and obviously, you know, it was produced some pretty cool riders, you know. So yeah.
Has it always been that small? Like it's quite tight.
Always been small, but now since they've changed it, Darcy, they've made it banking, you know, air fence, widened it. I think they went 1 metre on the corners and that. So it's pretty cool now. We get some awesome meetings and great racing, and Ryan Sejman does the track, and the surface is always superb. It's really good, really good.
Well, I guess like that, the track being the way it is and the way it was is how you got your style, really. I mean, you got such an iconic style, so to be able to, you know, the way you got your style is just from, you know, having to turn it and lay it down.
That's it, handlebar.
Getting into that. So what was the theory when you were helping Max out with, you know, obviously he come from motocross, and I don't really know the story, but he come from motocross, and then, you know, obviously it's very similar style to yours, not not as, I would say, perfected, but you know, you can never, your style was natural. You've tried to teach him the way that you have a theory of, you know, holding the bike and being in control. So what was the process like that like of just,
To
you
be
know?
honest, I didn't do that much with trainer schools and bits and pieces, but he always could tip it in really nice. And then I think probably it's crazy. Deck gets the old DVDs out, and I had my farewell meeting, and you wouldn't believe it. I'm doing an interview, and there's a kid on a junior speedo bike in the background, and it's Buddy Max. It's so cool, so cool. So, but yeah, he sort of come through the junior, and he could tip it in really good on the junior bike. So, Max has done really well for himself. He's pretty much got to where he is and got good contracts and sponsors, and you know, he's got good clubs behind him and all that, and he's pretty much done that off his own back, really, you know. So I really take my hat off to him. He's done a really good job, and obviously to be in the GP is massive for him. But yeah, I didn't do that much with him, honestly, and like he lives 7 hours away from me, so
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's surprised me. It's just been a slow sort of blossom for him. It's, you know, just slowly come up, but he's doing. I think he deserves a lot of praise. Like he's come through the ranks, and like I said, slowly. So I think this year would have been a good year for him, but unfortunately we're on pause. But like last year when he was in, you know, pretty much did the whole GP series, and he had some crackers.
definitely.
Obviously,
And
consistency's
didn't
tough
he
one,
was on the
but
pace and everything like that, wasn't he? You know, he was beating all the guns, and you know,
yeah.
he'd have his races and just kind of couldn't put it together to get to the final. But you know the deal. That's another ball game, isn't it? You know.
The semis are hardest.
Yep.
The semis are the hardest. I made a lot of semis, but not many finals.
Yeah, same here, mate. Same here. Choke. I used to choke and you know, you get too nervous and just
Yeah.
go. Yeah, totally.
Like, you know,
100%.
you're racing through your heats, you're trying to find your setup. By the time you get to the semis, you know, you got to make the start because it's just too much. It gets a lot harder to pass everybody because we're all in check by then. So you got to make a start, and you've normally got two bloody good gators on the inside of you.
Darcy,
Yeah,
have you ever had a moment at the tapes where you've gone, wow, I'm alongside someone? Did you have a hero that you rode against for the first time?
I wouldn't say there was a moment, but I do recall like being in Poland racing for Torrent, which was my first season. You know, I went straight. My first season, I think I'd only done about like 4 meetings in England for Kings Lynn Premier League, and then I went out and raced for Torrent in the Extra League, and like it was mind blowing. Like Dad was with me for that season, so we were like we didn't know what to do, and I think we raced Roslav, and Crumpy was riding with Roslav at that time. So you know, I particularly remember I just remember all of, you know, Crumpy's colours, and him, you know, he had that orange and all that. I just remember like saying like, wow, like look at the stadium we're in, like that's Jason Crump, and me and Dad, it would smile, and I probably got about like 7 points that day. So like that's pretty good for the junior. So
Yeah, big time.
yeah.
So who was at Torren then? Was TR there or?
No, it was what, Chris Majinski. What was Golub there? Sully was there.
Yeah, okay.
Yagus, that's his name.
Yep.
The little fella.
Little LAR he was.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember.
Is that right?
Yeah. He turned up to the GP one year with exactly the same colours as me. I was looking at him going, what are you doing?
Nearly the same design, like with the placing of what you got, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody asked, one of the questions I asked you guys, Someone asked me colours, Lee. Did you have a favourite set of leathers? I'm going to ask you the same. Well, riding gear. They weren't called leathers for years, and I'll ask the same question of you, Darcy. But Lee, did you have a favourite era or paint scheme or style that you rode under? I always think about you with the Owen brothers gear, but who sort of, what was an era that you really loved, that era of your riding gear?
You know what? I used to get that anal Millenniac. I was in with Millenniac, and I used to, because he was Lesno, I used to go and see him and all that sort of stuff. And I used to be real anal and spend all my summer trying to design everything up. And then, honestly, my last probably 4 years or 5 years, I just used to send him the sponsors, tell him where I wanted it, and I'd say, you design it, And man, every year, Wade, you used to turn up and just pull it out of the box and just look and think, man, how does he do that? It was just, honestly, it was way better than what I used to could even imagine. You know the deal. Their imagination and the way they can just do stuff. Honestly, it was pretty cool. One of me coolest suits was my last one that I wore was me pink one at me farewell here.
I thought that was good too.
Yeah, you know what? I did it for breast cancer to sell it, to auction it off and put the money to breast cancer. So I went to Millenniac and just said, listen, wherever I got red, put pink, and I thought it would look dead set ugly, but it was awesome. It was really cool looking suit. I've had a lot of people say, that suit was so cool, So that was pretty cool. But yeah, look, my last couple of GP ones, what Millenniac come up with was pretty special. Is you had KW, didn't you? You were KW.
KW. They went with I was Hagen, you see, for 3 years, so not much say in that.
Yeah.
And then then me and Chris did the Fork Rent team.
Yep.
For 1 year, so we did that together. But that we sort of copied a bit off you with how you had the logo on the side, like with just the angle of all your lining. And then I got suspended. So I had 10 months to design my 2015 stuff.
You had a lot of time just to get your imagination going.
I had a lot of time. So I remember specifically sitting in my garage with me next door neighbour, my mate Kizza, and I'm just drawing on paper, and confused, it doesn't look the same as what I got to explain to KW, what I'm after. So yeah, we just sat there, one afternoon and just started drawing, and I knew the colours I liked with blue and yellow, and that's how I come up with my stuff. One afternoon, shed.
There's a lot of questions that people have asked me to ask you guys, and one of them was, could you pick a favourite race or a memorable race? And I know that both of you got tons of them. Darcy, I'm privileged to call one of yours that I absolutely, to this day, I still try to look for it today, and I keep finding the Kelvin Tatum and Nigel Pearson version, but I want the one that I called from New Zealand when you and Emil just went at it. I think it was like Heat 19 or something like that, and you were on the boards. Still gives me chills just thinking about it. I'm pretty sure I've showed Leigh a couple of times as well. Do you have a race that you remember and you just go, wow, that's better than any other one?
Yeah, that's a cracker. That's a good one there in New Zealand, especially for me. That was the closest one to being home, and I had maybe 50, 60 people there that had flown from Australia. So that was pretty special, and good race. I love Emily's a good kid. So, but sometimes with that kind of stuff, I feel like I get lucky. Like no one before that race had adventured out to where I adventured, and I was sort of the first one to do it. So I feel like Emil, he was thinking, hey, how's he getting dirt out there? No one's been out there yet. We went back and forth, a couple of cutbacks, and when he comes out of corner 2 twice and sits on the back guard in the middle of the track, and I'm in the dirt, and he just gets crazy grip and crazy speed. So that's a good race. Probably my most memorable one was probably when I was a wild card at Torrent. and which was 2011. So like I was only being 3 years in England, and it was with Hancock and Golub at Torrent. And that year Hancock was the world champion, and the year before Golub was the world champion. And we had a good race back and forth. And then or even the first corner when I cut back, and I was in last off 4. Cut back, and Torrent right near the white line sometimes can be a bit of a divot where the white line meets the dirt, and I just happened to get it perfectly. It just launched me into the front, and then they swarmed me coming into 3. But by the end of the race and a couple back and forth, I end up getting Greg on the last corner. So that was pretty special, being a wild card then, and battling with them 2 boys and end up beating the 2 world champions. That was special.
Now, that was the year after you got offered to go SGP full time, and you knocked it back to stay back in Poland. What was your thought process with that? And Leigh, I want to come back to your best race, but let's stay with Darcy, what you're talking about. Why did you knock back the SGP?
Well, they did come out with that rule of I think 2 SGP riders per team, and I wanted to stay at Torrent, but that wasn't my main reason. I had a couple offers from different clubs because of that, but I wasn't ready, to be honest. In 2011, I had 1 mechanic in Poland. I was still young and developing, and I had seen years before Wolfie go to the GPs.
Mm-hmm.
Just because he was riding good in Poland and riding like that, doesn't mean that you're a GP. When you go to the GPs, you gotta make an impact. And I just felt like I wasn't ready. I didn't have a big sprinter van. Like I said, I had 1 mechanic. Mentally, I wasn't there. I just wasn't ready. But I declined it.
That's a pretty mature decision to make, though, Darcy, because let's face it, most of the time people would have an idea of, here's a kid that's just going to screw it on second twist in every part of your life. Did Chris have any sort of impact on that as well? Did he sort of say to you, hey, man, think about this? Or
No, I don't think so. I think it was more with Midlow. Obviously, I was living in Midlow, so it was a bit of Midlow and just going back and forth in my brain, just thinking like, am I ready? I need to get another mechanic. I need to buy a new van. I didn't have the greatest money behind me.
Yep.
To be able to set everything up. It was a tough decision, but at the end of the day, I think it was the right decision. And like I said, I'd seen Wolfie, the years before, be a really good rider, but went to the GPs and struggled, and that year was a down for him, because when you're struggling in the GPs and you're getting beaten every second Saturday, everywhere is going to be harder to ride. It was a good decision. It was a good decision.
When you came out that next year, when you did go back to SGP and join up, you won your first event in Denmark, which must have been just, wow, here I am.
Yeah. Well, I was, as figures would say, if I didn't get injured, I could have been world champion that year. But broke my shoulder at Copenhagen, and then my first meeting. I think I feel like it was my first meeting back after an injury. I feel like I might have rode a pool the Wednesday leading up to it, and then I went to the GP on Saturday and won it. So that was a good moment too, to be honest. I didn't expect that.
You missed 3 rounds and still finished right up there in the World Championship points. Quite amazing.
Finished 8th, yeah.
Leigh, can you even pick a greatest race? I mean, man, there's been so many of them, mate.
Yeah, you've had a load.
You know what, Wade? I had a lot of cheap helmets in my younger days, so my memory's not real good. Look, probably my first GP win, Gothenburg. TR, I was with TR, and I can remember I was off gate 4 or 3 or something, and same deal. We had the man-made ruddy track and all that sort of stuff. And I remember TR made the start, and I was on the outside, and he hit a rut and it sent him large. And I just turned back and come underneath him, and off I went, So that was my first GP win. it was weird. It was Casey was born probably 3 or 4 days before, I think, before I left to go to Gothenburg, and I was actually on an engine. I had all names for my engine, and that was Casey I was riding. So yeah, that was one that stood out. But yeah, look, I don't know, hard to say that one.
Anytime you can beat Tony Rickardsson in Sweden to win the Grand Prix is not a bad day, Leigh.
You know what, TR never won a Swedish GP. You know, all those, that's serious, all those years. And I think I did him a couple of times. I won Eskilstuna and I won Stockholm. He was in, and it was just, man, the guy was the best ever and never won a GP in his hometown. So, yeah, that.
What was that? What, you know, the Tony era was a bit before I'd come to England. I'd seen him on TV and all that. But like, what was he? He was so special. What do you think? Do you think he got just by the way he was with his bikes and his mechanics, and he took the show up another level? Do you think that helped him be the first guy to do that?
Big time. He was he was a guy that, the way I look at it, Ivan, you know, came to England and sort of, you know, within a couple of years set the bar pretty high and started training, and he was training with Man United and stuff like that, you know. So his bikes and all that. So he sort of set the bar up here, and then TR, he just went next level, you know. So he was the package, DW. He used to think out of the box, you know, frame-wise. You know, we were all tuning engines and spending a heap of money going and getting German tuners and all that sort of stuff. And then TR just turned up with this Penske frame, you know, and you're looking at the thing going, what's that? You know, that's not going to work. And it was just a revolutionised Speedway, you know, basically adjustable headstock, the straight back end. You know, he wasn't shy to try things and go race and maybe lose a few races and try stuff, you know. So
and that's the straight rear end then?
What's that?
Was he the first to go the straight rear end?
Yep. So that was the Penske frame, you know. So the Penske frame came out with this straight back end, which looked like an old Jap, and you know, you were looking at this thing going, what's this guy on, you know, like this thing's not going to work. And then boom, all of a sudden he's getting more drive and the adjustable head stem, all that sort of stuff. So, and like what I said to you, you know, when everyone was Jawa, he would go off the cuff and just go GM, you know, and you'd think, why is he doing that? And then he'd just done his homework and had the people behind him to back him and say, I think that's the right move. And promotion, you know, we used to go, he'd turn up with a motorhome, you know, like he was the first with the big motorhome. And yeah, like he'd turn up with a motorhome, and then his next year he had a bloody double-decker bus, you know, like what was the guy on? And you probably didn't see it, but he used to do like sponsorship invitational things, you know, before like a dinner or something like that before the GP, and he'd have 200 people crowded around his motorhome, you know. And I used to think, man, what's he doing there? Well, it turned out half or more than half of those people are paying to come along and do and be with Tony Rickardsson, you know. So yeah, like he just has set the bar for Speedway in general way up, you know. He was you knew him. He used to have a good time and like a drink and all that sort of stuff, but he used to train hard and, you know, go large too, you know, especially I think pretty much in the winter he used to really knuckle down and really train and get fit and eating, you know, all that sort of stuff. He was the package, hey, you know.
Yeah, right. Great.
Hey, I could talk about racing with you guys forever, and I want to, but it's important that we mention the women in your lives, because Lizzie, you know, with you, Darcy, and Kylie, the 20K Kylie's riding bikes 20 kilometres a day these days, Darcy. She's a bit of a mountain bike riding machine now. We're going to have to get LAR on one of these shortly because we're on the plan. Mate, how do you both? I'll start with you, Leigh. When you had your accident, Kylie was always your manager, your cheerleader, your best friend, your partner, your everything anyway. But it went next level when she then became sort of someone who had to care for your needs as well.
Yeah, that's obviously, it's a tough gig for her. She had 2 kids also, and trying to sort them out and sort me out, and I was basically like another kid sort of thing, when I first got home. But probably stepping back, probably more so through my racing career. She was behind every good man. There's a good woman, basically, and she did so much in the background and logistics and trying to sort out airfares and, all that sort of stuff. And the GP, DW would tell you, it's a tough gig every 2 weeks. And, at one stage there I had, 3 vans, a motorhome and 11 bikes and 3 mechanics and trying to just keep on the top of everything, logistics and whatnot, was really tough. And, she helped out big time. And then when I got injured, man alive, watch DW would tell you what they got to put up with, and it's a pretty tough gig. So, yep, awesome.
I wouldn't sign up for it.
No, well, I mean, Darcy, there's no doubt, is there, mate, that your beautiful wife has been a huge part of why you're even sitting there like you are right now.
Yeah, I think even just to make life in general easier and makes you happier, I guess, having a beautiful wife and everything's quite easier. So Lizzie was there from day dot when I crashed. Once I got back to England, which was an adventure, but she was there from day dot, and I was lucky enough to be in a good hospital where it was private. So she slept there all the time. They give her a bed, and she, from that day, really, she's not really left. So she's stuck with me now. We're married. So look, man, I can't praise her enough. I can't say anything bad. It's she's my rock. So I feel pretty lucky in that sense.
I take a bit of credit for your rehab. So when you got injured, I phoned Matt and basically said to Matt, hey, listen, Matt, this is the deal. You got to get him out of Poland as quick as possible. You got to find a rehab centre for him, and you got to get organised and get the wheels in motion, So, and it was only probably a couple of days after he got injured, and he was in a bad way anyway. So, but he was I kept in contact with him, and we got things, and Matt got you into a great place, I think, didn't he?
Oh, like the hospital that we went that I was at was, you couldn't get any better. It was full spinal. It was full private. Wasn't cheap, but lucky I had insurance. But Mark Webber went there when he busted up his leg in the 24-hour race, I believe, when he hit the wall.
Yep.
So I believe that's how I got into there. I think Mark also got in contact and said, hey, this is the place to go. Because he lives only 10 minutes away.
Yep.
So I think that's how we got onto that place. But it was lucky I had insurance. I'd only just got insurance for this year. So like a month before I was paying for private health insurance. Because the bill was about 250,000 quid.
Yeah, I could imagine. Big time. Hey, what was it like? You were probably bombed out on drugs and all that, but it must have been spooky being laid up in Poland, sitting there thinking, what's next, basically.
Yeah, so like the whole sort of story was like when I crashed, like I remember laying there and doctor come over and I'm like, mate, I can't feel nothing. Just got nothing. I remember like getting into the van, going up the ramp at Zielonia. I remember Gollop coming over and talking to me, and he was a bit spooked out. And then I remember lights. And then the next day, I don't remember the next day, But I remember the day after that and the next week, Bean and Poland and Monster Joe and Midlow and Chris were there, but they were only allowed there for certain times. And I was a vegetable, so only really my voice was only useful. But and I remember one night like just in pain, like I don't know how to describe the pain. I don't know, it's a numb, tingling. It's a weird pain. I was sore, but I remember laying there and I was trying to go to sleep and the light was on. And I'm telling the lady, hey, I need the light off. I can't lift my arm up. I'm going, the light, that up there. And she's got no idea. And I couldn't
understand
get
English.
she just didn't know. And that was the worst day of my life. That was. But after that, once we got back to England and I was surrounded with people, it was all right. My family came over and it's all she wrote.
Yeah, exactly.
Leigh, what was your experience like in Fink? I mean, the irony of that, and you mentioned Thomas Golub then, and I just went, wow, Darcy, because my goodness, Thomas is Thomas the same situation as you, Leigh?
Pretty much the same, yeah. He's a para. He's probably a couple lower than me, a couple of vertebrae lower, but from what I gather, I sort of kept in touch with Thomas, his manager, and they used to Skype, and both of them would get together. And from when I kind of last was in contact, he didn't have much going. He didn't have any movement. So I don't know whether you've been in contact, DW, have you, or?
Not since 6 months of released out of the hospital. No.
Yeah. So I think I spoke to his manager when he was kind of home and everything like that, and he was saying, he hasn't got anything, and I think he's doing okay from what I see. He's getting around and starting to do things, so he's involved with Big Gosh a little bit with the Speedway, I think, so that's good call.
Yeah.
So, Leigh, do you have thank God yours happened in Australia, I guess. It certainly was in the middle of Australia with Fink. Do you recall much about your dirt bike crash?
Can't remember a thing, Wado, so I take that as a bonus, really. I can't remember. I can remember laying, I was on my stomach, and I remember Andrew, my brother, come over to me, and I can remember looking up and sort of, I think he grabbed me toes and said, "Can you feel them?" And I said, "No, I can't." But I was knocked out, so I was knocked out when I got crashed and then came to. So I can't really remember anything. I can remember landing in the air ambulance in Adelaide and waking up and going, "Where are we?" My brother was with me, and he said, "Oh, we're in Adelaide." And then you sort of you're that bombed out on drugs, you're just dropping in and out, So I can remember, this is spooky, mate. I remember I'm in hospital and they're getting ready to sort of take me into surgery, and you got to sign a waiver form to say, the guy come over, the doctor come over and said, "Oh, you got to sign this, you may not walk again." And man, I can remember I just sat up and I looked at Kylie and I was like, "What's he talking about?" And she pushed me down and she signed it. She ended up signing it because I wasn't in a state. But can't really, the first year probably the same. First couple of days you're that much on drugs and whatnot. Yeah. And I kind of take it as a bonus. I can't remember me crash, Wado, so that's a good thing.
And what about now, Leigh? What are you up to now? Like you standing up most days. We spoke about that last time in Melbourne and moving around the parallel bars and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, not too bad. I got lazy, Das. Not every day, now and then in the workshop I got to stand up on the bench and I can just drag myself up and stand. I'm not doing much walking now, which I used to be right into it, So I've got lazy and got big. I'm like Screeny.
We're going to start with the riding, Darcy. We're going to get a hand. He's worried about dogs coming and nipping him when we're going on the ride, but we got to get him on the hand bike.
Yeah.
What about you, Darcy? Where are you at with yours, mate?
I'm a bit of a different boat, I guess. Leigh can. I guess he's got a bit more control. So I have a standing machine that like stands me up, which is quite new. I've only had it probably 6 months, which has been really good, like good for your bone density of putting pressure into your legs, your blood pressure. I struggle with low blood pressure, so I get lightheaded quite often. So yeah, I'm standing in that, and I was doing my rehab, which is here on the Gold Coast, with that making strides. But obviously, with all this pandemic, where they had been closed, but actually, I went back on Friday for the first time. So, and like to describe that a bit, when I went back on Friday, I go there and they're like, "Hey, like you're super tight, you can't move." Where I'm at home doing stuff, standing up and using my gym, but I'm doing the same movements every day.
Yeah.
So when I get to strides and someone moves me around and I'm moving like I haven't, they're going, "Whoa, man, you're tight as." So that's just the not being able to move around and roll around that's the impact of that, I guess.
It's good that you're still doing the making strides, mate. That's awesome. That's really. I know Eric Gunderson. I sort of kept in or phoned those guys. When I was in rehab, and I can remember Eric telling me, even now, I think still now to this day, he still goes to rehab and still does like a boot camp. Does like a 3-week stint and goes large and gets fit and all that sort of stuff. So. That's awesome. That's kind of what I need is, making strides or something like that, where you can just go and go large, so.
Oh, that's like, it's the same if I'm at home, like some days you can't be bothered, right? But if you got somewhere to go to and somebody there pushing you, it's completely different. Like you love doing it, but when you're at home doing it by yourself, it's just, you get over it real quick.
Yeah, totally. What about, CH?
Yeah.
What about CH? You still keep in touch with him, Chris?
Yeah, mate. Yep. I spoke to him not long ago, but he's stuck in England at the moment, obviously. Him and Jack are at a house there that they're renting. Buckled down over there. And see, they didn't come back because Chris has got Max, so he wants to be over there with Max, and I'm guessing Jack's pretty similar. He wants to support Chris and be there with Max and that. So, but yeah, no, he's in a much better place than what he has been in the last couple of years with troubling times. But he's in a better place and he's got a new girlfriend and all that kind of stuff. So it'd be interesting to see how it goes this year and stuff. But
It was super cool when he wore your leathers, mate. That or your riding gear when he wore that at the SGP in Melbourne, Matt. It was hardly a dry eye in the place when he came to the tapes the first time.
Yeah. I was there for that. We were sitting up in the box with his family and all that. So yeah, look, me and Chris still talk. So it's all good.
When is your race?
28th of November. So I'm banking on this stuff to be over because there's a lot going into it. But 28th of November. Excited to get the Polish boys over with Magic and the Pavlicki brothers, hopefully.
Yep.
That would be awesome. They were straight away, mate. They were keen as mustard. I think they were keen just to come back to Australia, to be honest. Whether they're right or not, I think they're coming. So, look, that's something that we need here in Australia. It definitely needs help with, maybe trying to get these riders here, every year. So I've invested in bikes, so I had to buy bikes for them and stuff. So see what happens. Let's see if we can try and get something going every year with a couple of riders coming over.
What were you going to say?
With foreigners coming over, this year we probably had 6 or 7 staying in Mildura, and like I can remember going to one meeting and I think there was like 8 or 9 riders that were just foreigners, so there was a couple based in Adelaide and then there was about 6 here. So we were putting together like a field of 16 really, good riders. So it was good, wasn't it, Wade?
Yeah. Most of them were staying at Jason Stewart and Donna Stewart's house. That's the halfway house for international, particularly Danish riders and POMs as well. How do we keep up with your race, Darcy? What's the best way on social media for people to support it and your merch?
I would say the Darcy Ward Invitational Facebook page.
Okay.
Just been releasing a couple of riders every month and putting quizzes on there, and people win merchandise, and I don't know, just getting people involved with that kind of stuff. But it's been we're still a way off, so I've not been too crazy on it.
Let me know if I can help with any of that, Darcy. I'd love to help spread the word. I know that Dave Parker's great supporters of both you boys, and I know he's going to be watching this. He's already messaged me a couple of times. What time's it on? When he wants to work it out so he's not on the jet ski, I think, when this is on.
I was just talking to him. He messaged me about my birthday, so he was just saying he's moved up to he moved somewhere in the bush.
Yeah, where he can ride his jet ski. I've been on to Kylie about Leigh getting some retro shirts made, Darcy. Like, you would still sell a lot of merch, and I reckon if Leigh had a couple of cool shots where the book was cocked in, I reckon a few of us oldies would buy a shirt like that. Even you young blokes would.
Yeah, I don't want to go right in my gym room, hanging up.
There you go.
Mate, Kylie, she's been in the old ISO. She's been cleaning up and whatnot, and she's been pulling the hats out. Did you see all the hats, all the LAR hats? And, mate, they're going, man, you need to do another hat. The kids are going, you need to do another hat. And I'm like, man, I'm an old fart in a wheelchair.
No. People don't forget, Darcy, do they?
No, they don't.
No, absolutely. Well, I'm gonna put the link to your page, Darcy, for in this so that we can keep pumping up the jam. Leigh, I know Dave Parker wants to get you there, Leigh, and I'd love to come up and yell in the mic for a couple of races for you, Darcy. So whatever we can do to November 28 up in Brizzy, we'll keep the information pumping, eh?
Yeah, and now like you've spoken about coming up, we'll keep in contact, make everything easy and all that kind of stuff, and we'll talk Wade about that kind of stuff. We'll get that in line.
Thank you so much, boys, for your time today. I know we haven't got a whole lot of other things. He's been cleaning my mountain bike today, Darcy. So I've got the LAR polish on the Jammis, so I'm too scared to ride it now.
It'll be smick.
Oh, mate, buddy, it's superb.
Yeah, I know how you were.
Declan's next level to me.
Yeah.
He is like, he's bad, real bad.
Yeah. I've heard he's terrible. There's nothing perfect.
You can imagine Aussie title time when the buddy, when Chris and Jack turn up with their bikes.
Yeah.
Deck's just like, what are you doing? Like, come on. So he's out there with the Brillo and polishing, and he loves it, mate. He's anal.
Yeah, I'm still looking at your background. Liz got me this today for my birthday.
Oh, nice.
That's me GP jacket that I won.
Yeah.
And then
that's awesome, mate.
When I was in hospital, Steve Smith, the cricketer captain, sent me a jersey and signed it.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
That looks great, mate.
Yeah, so that's
good.
I'm just starting to do what you got up behind you, Leigh. I'm just starting to do up me gym room that I got. So getting some wallpaper and putting some trophies on the wall and that kind of stuff. Took time.
Celebrate that shit, Darcy. You got to celebrate that shit, mate.
Yeah, I know. And it's more like I look at it and I mesmerise over it some days, but when I have visitors, they all standing there, and it's all a bit messy at the moment, so I wouldn't mind making a bit of a show.
Good.
Like what you got? Exactly what you got.
That's good. You got a bike?
Yeah, I got the best bike I had from 2015. The Les Pebbles.
Good boy. That must have been.
We need to get together for a coffee because Leigh loves his lattes and he loves his scones. So at some point we need to get together and maybe we can do that up in Queensland in November. Darcy, thanks so much for catching up, brother.
Love it. Thank you.
See you, bud.
Daniel, I'll come and get the bike.
Yeah, mate.
See you, boys.
Hey, mate. See you, Wado.